One of the things I love about camping is roughing it. Well, to a degree anyway. I do plan ahead. I have a standard list of things that I pack, including the essentials like a map and a compass. But I do also bring along a few creature comforts like caffeine and wine and Doritos. Roughing it does mean different things to different campers. But I think that's also true with this writing retreat that I'm participating in. In today's video, I'm going to discuss how I've been approaching the rough draft for my second novel as I'm hanging out with my fellow virtual campers at Camp NaNoWriMo. Nash yourself, Nani T here. Like many of you guys, I struggle with keeping a regular writing schedule and getting out that first rough draft. I really get hung up on the planning part. So this month, I have decided to give my inner procrastinator a swift kick in the persistence bone by signing up for Camp NaNoWriMo. My goal is to reach 50,000 words or a completed first draft by the end of the month. In order to make it, I've really got to commit to the rough aspect of the rough draft. And I'm here to show you how I do it. If you find these kinds of videos helpful, do please subscribe. I'm rather new here, and tap that little bell to be notified when I post some more. I'd really appreciate it. In the meantime, step one for me is that I get up early and caffeinate and keep it low tech. It's kind of self-explanatory. I'm a night person, so getting up early and heading straight for my notepad and pen is difficult, but it has some serious advantages. The first is that it doesn't interfere with my day job, which would be a no-no. Staying up late makes it really hard for me to get up in the morning. But it's also true that early in the morning I'm not really awake, so my logical brain doesn't really fight with my muse. And I was probably dreaming about the story anyway, so it's more likely to end up on the page if I get right to it. Now, as far as just using pen and paper, that's always been the best creative flow for me, and also there's no danger of a tweet popping up in the middle of a page, so I'm less likely to get distracted. Step two for me, when I went camping all the time, one of the things I used to say was that it's not really camping. You haven't been camping unless you've jumped in the creek. And this is kind of a similar thing when it comes to writing time here at Camp NaNoWriMo. Planning time is over. This is fun time. It's time to play with your characters, your story, and see what happens. Yes, I do have a basic plot line mapped out. I have 3 of them, as a matter of fact, and I refer to that from time to time, especially when I'm shifting between those 3 storylines. But mostly I just jump right in and start writing wherever I left off. If I get lost, I refer to the map. And if I'm not feeling the dialogue that day, I rely on that quote from Terry Pratchett that the first draft is telling yourself the story. So that's what I do. I tell myself the story. I pretend that I am a storyteller speaking to generations in the future and telling them this tale. I just tell them what happened, and I tell it with whatever degree of grace and style shows up at my fingertips in that moment. I have been using this method for a while now, and I gotta say it really takes the pressure off. But the key is making sure that I cover all the key elements. So I don't move on to the next scene until I've made sure that I've covered certain things. First is the POV, the point of view of the story. It's whoever the point of view is usually the same answer as whose scene is it? Who in the scene is the person that wants something? And then why do they want it, if that's not already been established or obvious? Then I make sure I cover what's the conflict, what's the issue with getting that goal. And then really the rest of it is just what happens. Whatever happens, I just go through those pieces, but I make sure that the end of every one of my chapters, at least, scenes sometimes, end with some kind of little cliffhanger that makes the reader hooked, that gets them to turn the next page and want to see what happens next. Always asking that question, what happens next, and trying to get the reader to ask that question, what happens next? And that's really it. Those are my key points for roughing it and keeping the rough draft rough and not getting too hung up on prose and style and craft. I have to count on the fact that I've already internalized a lot of that stuff at this point, and just go with it. There's a lot of stuff I haven't, but I can always correct that in editing. I can always make better prose, work on my dialogue in the editing. My goal for this Camp NaNoWriMo is not the same as it would be for like the November NaNoWriMo, where I'm really just, trying to get the whole thing in a rough draft. My point at this time is I want to get from the beginning to the end in a very rough draft so I can see what I've gotten and have that piece to work with. So I hope this has been beneficial to you. Please do go ahead and subscribe if you find this of value to you. And in the meantime, please keep living what you love. We'll see you soon.